Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice Radio. So today, I'm going to be showing you a brand new supporter card, which is going to be coming out in the Pokemon trading card game. And to spoil the surprise a little bit at the beginning, it's a doozy. I love it, and I expected to see a whole bunch of play. It's called Tourist, and it was revealed and translated by the lovely David Hochmann over at Hochmann TCG, one of my favourite people in the Pokemon community. And it's very fitting, because most of us have been on holidays at some point that we call holidays, but are in fact a thinly veiled excuse to go and play in a Pokemon trading card game tournament. So I think this is pretty fitting, and it's going to go in a bunch of decks, and people go, it's funny because you're a tourist playing the card Tourist. But what does it actually do? Well, it's another draw supporter. And it says, draw cards until you have 5 in hand. Before drawing, you may discard as many cards from your hand as you like. And, you know, it's got a vanillish on it, if you're into that. You know. And to be honest, I quite like Unova as a region, so I'm okay with that. But it's a draw card, and it's actually a pretty sweet draw card. Now, as a quick reminder, and I will be quick because I've gone for this a couple of times, but people keep asking me, Ross, how are we going to make decks after rotation? Well, see, what draw cards are we going to have? We're losing Professor Sycamore, we're losing N, but we're still going to have Cynthia. And we're going to have Judge, but that's not great because you only get 4 cards. And we're still going to have Copycat, but that's not great because your opponent can just make sure they've got a very small hand and then Copycat won't do very much. And I told you recently about Tate and Liza, which isn't amazing, but it's basically a Shauna, and that's okay. It gives us something. And now we get Tourist. And essentially what Pokemon are doing here is they are saying, look, we are taking away, we are ripping cruelly away 2 of the best draw cards that you've had in a long time. But in their place, have some other draw cards. We are going to hook you up, we are going to sort you out, and that is exactly what Pokemon are doing. So why is this one good? I mean, essentially, drawing till you got 5 cards in hand, it's Octillery's Abyssal Hand. And interestingly enough, by the time this comes out in Sun and Moon 8 in November, Octillery will actually have rotated. We all like Abyssal Hand because it draws cards. Now, essentially what you need to think about is here, are you looking for 1 card or are you looking for a 2-card combination? Because let's say, for argument's sake, you just need a double colorless energy. You've got that Zoroark, you've got the KO, but you just need to draw a double colorless energy to win the game. Clearly, in that situation, your focus is on drawing the maximum number of cards. So you play a Cynthia, give yourself a new hand of 6 cards, and you're off and rolling. That gives you the best chance to get it. There's no guarantee that you will, but you're at least strengthening your odds. But let's say instead you really need a rare candy and a Mamoswine. Yes, I live in a fantasy world where Mamoswine is a viable card. Don't ruin all of my fun. Well, here you need a 2-card combination. So let's say you've got that rare candy in hand and you just need to grab that Mamoswine. If you play a Cynthia, you've got to hit both those cards off of 6. Whereas if you play this, then you can instead go down to 1 card in hand, getting rid of everything but the rare candy, and then draw 4, and you're more likely to draw 1 card off of 4 cards than a 2-card combination off of 6. I know that under a lot of circumstances, Cynthia will be better. But my answer to that accusation is very simple and twofold. Number 1, there are plenty of times where drawing cards is better than shuffle draw, like the one I just gave you. And also, yeah, but you can only play 4 Cynthia in your deck. Judge isn't ideal. Copycat isn't ideal. Tate and Liza isn't ideal. Aren't ideal? Isn't ideal because it's 1 card, even though it's a pair of characters. So we need something else. This is that something else, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm not saying it's going to be a 4 of in every deck, but I'm saying purely as draw support, this could work very nicely. I mean, to carry on our previous example, let's say you've got an Oranguru on the bench. Well, if you really need to get that 2-card combination, let's say you got 1 card in hand, you can't use Oranguru. I mean, you can, but the chances of hitting both those cards are infinitesimally small. So you basically got to play the Cynthia, and then maybe you can get down to 2 cards in hand and draw an extra with Oranguru. That's very unlikely. Whereas if you're playing Tourist, you draw the 2 cards of Oranguru. If one's the one you want, keep it. If not, just discard, and then draw up until you've got 5. And in that situation, you're potentially drawing 7 cards. 2 from the Oranguru, discard your entire hand, draw 5. Rather than Cynthia, which would essentially be giving you 6, making Tourist a better option in that situation. The other day, I talked about Samson Oak, the upcoming promo in Japan. As a quick reminder, it draws 2 cards, but if you've got the same color active as your opponent, same type active, Tapu Lele springs to mind, then you can draw 4. And I said, for many of the same reasons I'm talking about this now, it will sometimes be good, but it's a bit awkward. Well, this basically makes that redundant most of the time, because this can always draw you 4 or 5 if you're willing to discard cards from your hand. More on that in a moment, because that is, of course, a very serious consideration. And let's not forget, we're living in a Tapu Lele world. So you don't have to be stuck with one supporter. You can play Cynthia if you really want 1 card and want to get the best chance of drawing it, or you can play Tourist if you need that 2-card combination. Or maybe even you're just a deck that really relies on double colorless energy, and you've got 1 in hand ready for next turn, and you just don't want to play it. Or you are certain that your opponent is about to put down their once per game beast energy, so you want to keep that enhanced hammer in your hand so you can play it after they get only 1 use. There's plenty of times we want to keep cards in our hand. This will allow us to do so. But of course, this becomes much better draw when you've either got a low hand to begin with, or are willing to discard cards so that you have a very low hand. Well, sometimes that's really quite nice. And it's an example I use over and over again, and I'm sorry, but it's the best one. Vespiquen Flareon. If you're in the expanded format, you can play a bit of the old Vespiquen Flareon, and this is an amazing draw supporter. Speaking of which, right, the amount of times I've mentioned this deck lately, it has surely got to be worth another look in expanded, because it's got a lot of new tricks lately. But essentially, you've got 4 Pokemon in hand. You discard all 4 of those Pokemon with Tourist, draw 4 new cards, or 5 if there's nothing else in your hand, and then maybe you draw something like an Unknown, which you can again go and discard and draw extra cards. It's clearly great for a deck like that, but it's not just that. Malamar decks can discard some of their psychic energy. Now, admittedly, we did look at a Shuckle earlier, which is arguably better for that, but Shuckle still takes up a bench space, so it's worth considering. Speaking of which, this is another free video day. For some reason, right, they won't release a card, they won't reveal a card for weeks, or, a week, and then it's like 5 in the space of a day. Because in the last 24 hours, lots of cards have been revealed. It's annoying, but this is apparently the way it goes at the moment. I could cry about it, but I'd rather just analyse the new cards and deal with it. So do go check out my Shuckle video, I suppose is what I'm rambling and trying to say. It could just be something as simple as clearing your hand full of crummy cards that you don't want later. Zoroark players are used to playing a card like Bridget with trade, i.e. discard it to draw 2 more cards. There are plenty of cards we play just to think, you know what, it's no good. I don't need it anymore. Or we play a Mr. Mime, and I know it's rotating, alright, just in case we come against a Buzzwole. But then we're not playing a Buzzwole, so that Mr. Mime is pointless, so you can discard it with this. And then the Cynthias that you're going to play in 1 or 2 turns' time become much more effective because you have a smaller number of cards in your deck and therefore are more statistically likely to draw into the card that you actually want. This is a very, very good card. If it's a deck that doesn't mind discarding cards, this is an absolute no-brainer. If it's a deck that needs 2-card combinations like Rare Candy Mamoswine, there are going to be plenty of turns where this is better than Cynthia. If you've been playing for a while, you would have had turn after turn of playing something like N or Cynthia, looking for the Candy Stage 2, and whiffing it over and over and over and over and oh wait, you've just lost the game. This can help you avoid that. I really do think it's going to go in a whole bunch of decks post-rotation, and I've got to give it 5 Wossies. I don't think it's some amazing, unbeatable, brilliant best card in the format, but I do think it is going to be put in a great number of decks, especially given how easily we can grab it out with Tapu Lele, and a card which is going to see play in a whole heap of different decks. Gotta be a 5 Wossie card. But as always, ladies and gentlemen, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Do you think it will make it into decks? Do you think it will become a staple? Let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! But be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWossie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all of that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do just that. And do check out my Dragon Ball Super / video game channel, Wossie Plays. Regular uploads have started again, and I think the videos are good. I mean, I would say that, but go check it out anyway. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.